You walk into the room and your spouse is yet again starting to complain about one of the habits that you have that they don't like. Criticism can happen in multiple situations. It can happen with your job, with a friend, even with your relationship, which is the specific group that today I'm addressing. I'm discussing how to accept criticism without becoming defensive. A lack of communication can be a top destructor in your marriage. A major part of communication, not as fun as it would be, is criticism. Accepting criticism without becoming defensive in your marriage can decrease the amount of fights, improve the communication, and increase the overall quality of your relationship. I realize that personally, I'm very bad at taking criticism without becoming defensive, especially in my relationship. Because I'm comfortable with my significant other, it's easy to just overreact and not accept the criticism that they're giving you, opposed to being criticized by like a boss or somebody that you're not comfortable with, because you'll take their criticism and apply it because you're at work and you have to. Whereas your significant other, you really don't care most of the time, and that's going to hurt your relationship. This is a major problem, so I decided to research how to accept criticism without becoming defensive, to hopefully improve my relationship and maybe help some other people improve their relationship also. There are certain steps that I've found online and through certain websites and articles that help accepting criticism without becoming defensive. And there's certain points that all of them majorly had that really hit home, such as listening, asking questions, and learning how to, in the end, resolve the conflict. The most important step to accepting criticism without becoming defensive is to listen. You can't accept the criticism if you're not listening to your significant other. In an article in the January 2008 issue of the Weekly Reader, Tamikia Reese, an award-winning writer who specializes in health, parenting, and relationship issues, says, just listen. In the same article, she also says, getting defensive will only make things worse. When you get defensive, it's going to create a bigger fight than you already started out with, because you're automatically on the off. You don't want to hear what the other person's saying, and you're not going to get any better with that. She also says, if you're feeling testy about the criticism, take a breather. You might have to go in the other room real quick until you're ready to really hear what the other person says. Another good point that she states is, your defensiveness could cause you to miss valuable feedback. Your husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, any type of spouse, they might actually have something good to say, and if you're not going to listen to them and accept the criticism without becoming, mean, then you might miss out on making yourself a better person in general, because they may have good feedback, and if you're not listening, you're not going to get that feedback. Once you have the first step of criticism, by listening, you're able to move on to the next step that I looked up. The second step is to ask questions. If you just sit there and take the criticism and don't respond in any way, then you're not going to feel like you have a part in it. So you're going to, even though you've listened to them, you don't feel like you said anything to them. So it's not going to, it has to be a two-way street. So you need to ask questions. In an article on the U.S. News website written on June 30th, 2008, Allison Green, a successful blog writer, states, don't brush it off. You don't want to just listen to it and be like, okay, honey, and then go in the other room, because more than likely it's going to bother you that they said that thing. More than likely it's going to bother you that they said that thing, because you're listening, but you're not really taking it in, asking questions. You're just kind of like, okay, whatever, but it's going to come up later if you guys don't talk about it. And another question is ask the person what they really mean, because you might take it the wrong way. Like, you may take it like they're saying one thing, but if you ask them, well, what exactly do you mean by this, then you'll be able to really figure out the root of the problem instead of just going on the surface. If you think the criticism is valid and believe the person's intentions is sincere, ask specific and non-defensive questions, such as, how do you think I should handle it next time? McGonigal, a psychologist at Stanford University in California, suggests. Then work on the behavior. I recently went to a class on parenting, and that was a major thing of how to resolve conflict in general, was to ask questions, and then you're supposed to tell them, how can I do it? It's supposed to be an I, not a you, because if you say you to that person, they're going to automatically become defensive also, whereas if you say I, make it an I have a problem with this because of this reason. How can we make it better? And that's usually like a very good way to not get into arguments, accept your criticism, have them accept criticism without it being like you, and feel like you're battering the other person. Once you've asked questions, you're ready to really fix or confront what is being criticized. The only way to fully accept criticism without becoming defensive is learning how to resolve the conflict in the end. You just gotta fix it completely. Otherwise, again, it's gonna come right back. There are 3 successful steps I found on multiple places that have been used to accept the criticism. One is negotiation. In an article from the Assertive Manager, Positive Skills at Work for You, Elena Zucker, a seasoned businesswoman, educator, author, and consultant, states, once you've heard your critic out and acknowledged that she might be right, you're ready to negotiate aspects of your behavior that you can or are willing to change. It cannot be a one-sided thing. Even if you're accepting the criticism, it's not going to work if you aren't willing to change your behavior a little bit, because obviously there is something wrong, whether it be to you or not. To them, they're having an issue with it. And if they are your significant other, you should care, because, I mean, it's your relationship, and a lot of us have children, and we want to make it work for our families. Another thing is feedback, talking to one another about it. When they give you the criticism, talk back. And that's another way to start resolving it. And the last thing to resolve it is compromise. You have to meet each other halfway. In the same article that I just talked about earlier, Positive Skills at Work for You, Elena states, whether the criticism is true or not, adopting a positive and assertive approach allows you to cope with it constructively. So when you are being criticized, whether it be, whether they're being too harsh or not too harsh, just go into it with a positive outlook. Because if you're negative about it, you're going to be on the defensive. Nothing's going to get fixed. So go in it with an open mind and just be positive, and something will get fixed, whether it's little, all of it, some of it, which will ultimately help the relationship. Well, today I have discussed simple steps to accepting criticism without becoming defensive, such as listening, asking questions, and just overall resolving the conflict that started the criticism in the first place. The next time you think about responding negatively to a spouse or your significant other, or even a friend, coworker, boss, anybody, you will have the resources to respond positively and constructively. Now, I can't tell you whether or not this is going to fix your relationship or not if you're struggling, because there's a lot you have to do to fix relationships, but if these methods are used, it will improve the communication in your relationship and overall make a better, happier family.